Off the coast of India, divers found what might be the ancient city of Dwarka, tied to the god Krishna. In Egypt, Thonis Heracleion rose from the seabed with giant statues and sunken temples, and in Greece, Pavlo Petri still sits almost perfectly preserved, under over 13 feet of water. These are ancient cities that disappeared under the waves. Pavlo Petri is ancient, about 5,000 years old, making it the oldest submerged city we know of. Sitting in Vatica Bay off the coast of southern Laconia in Greece, it's believed to have been submerged around 1000 BCE, mostly thanks to a series of earthquakes and rising sea levels. But the cool part is, it's almost completely preserved under the water, with streets, buildings, and even tombs still clearly visible. You can make out a lot of the city's layout. Pavlo Petri has been mapped out using modern technology like sonar, and archaeologists have been able to identify at least 15 buildings, some with multiple rooms. The town was home to a pretty sophisticated society. It was involved in trade, and the ruins even show evidence of different social classes, with fancy tombs for the elites and simpler graves for all the regular folks. Pavlo Petri's history goes back even further than we first thought, too. Originally, it was thought to be from the Mycenaean period, around 1600 to 1100 BCE, but later studies pushed it to around 3500 BCE. After being submerged, it's been left mostly undisturbed. It's one of the most well-preserved ancient cities that we know of. At one time, Thonis Heracleion was one of Egypt's most important port cities, found at the mouth of the Nile Delta. It was a major hub for trade and religion, and a link between Egypt and the Mediterranean. It was also home to some seriously impressive temples, including one dedicated to the god Amun. But by the 8th century, the city had disappeared. The exact reasons why it sank are still up for debate, but it's clear that the city was lost to the sea. Eventually, it became a bit of a myth. But then in 2000, an underwater archaeologist named Frank Gaudio came across something while searching for the lost city of Alexandria. What he found were these massive statues, ancient ships, and sunken temples. The city had been buried under about 10 meters of water, perfectly preserved. It was the lost city of Thonis Heracleion, and ever since, there have been more excavations revealing more of the city's layout. There are streets, docks, and residential areas. This place was also a center of culture and religion. The artifacts discovered there, including a giant stone relief of a pharaoh and a huge statue of the god Hapi, show how important this place was in its prime. Off the coast of Gujarat in India, divers started exploring near modern-day Dwarka in 1983. The project was run by India's National Institute of Oceanography. What they found underwater were massive stone blocks, walls, and what looked like sections of a city grid. Some of the ruins were sitting about 30 feet below the surface. The layout looked intentional. There were right angles, straight lines, even areas that looked like they might have been docks or buildings. This matched up with the stories from ancient Indian texts that talked about a city called Dwarka, said to be ruled by the god Krishna. Now, according to the text, the city was built on the coast and was later swallowed by the sea. That sounded like a myth for a long time, until the underwater ruins turned up. Carbon dating and other tests on pottery and construction materials found that the site showed that some parts of it could be more than 3,000 years old. Some Indian archaeologists think this could actually be the original Dwarka mentioned in the Mahabharata. Back in the late 1600s, Port Royal was one of the biggest and wildest cities in the Caribbean. It was a major hub for trade, but it was also known for its pirates, its brothels and bars. Some called it the wickedest city on earth. It sat right at the mouth of Kingston Harbor, and at its peak, it had thousands of people and dozens of ships coming in and out regularly. But then on June 7th of 1692, a massive earthquake hit. The ground basically liquefied under the city, buildings collapsed, and in minutes, about 2/3 of Port Royal sank straight into the sea. Over 2,000 people died, and what was left was later hit by fires and hurricanes. After that, the city just never really recovered. In the 50s and again in the 80s, underwater archaeologists started exploring the sunken part of Port Royal, found streets, foundations, even some personal items like dishes and tools and weapons, still sitting where people left them when the quake hit. Shi Chang, also called the Lion City, wasn't lost in some freak disaster or anything. It was sunk on purpose. In 1959, the Chinese government flooded the area to make way for the Shi Chang River hydroelectric project. The city, which had been sitting there for over 1,300 years, ended up at the bottom of what's now Qingdao Lake, about 40 meters underwater. The city is still mostly intact though. You've got these ornate carvings, stonework, arches, and roads that haven't really eroded like you'd expect. Divers exploring the ruins found walls, towers, and gates that date back to the Ming and Qing dynasties. Shi Chang wasn't a small town either. It played a big role in the region's politics and economy at the time. Because the water's cold though, and low in oxygen, decay has been super slow. Today, the place is basically a time capsule. Not many people know about it unless they're into diving or Chinese history, but it's one of the most well-preserved underwater cities on the planet. Atlit Yam is one of the oldest underwater settlements we've ever found. It's sitting just off the coast of Israel, under about 10 meters of water, and it's been down there for around 9,000 years. The place was around during the Neolithic era, long before the pyramids or even writing. Back in the 80s and 90s, marine archaeologists started surveying the area and realized there was more than just a few old rocks down there. What they came across were actual houses, stone walls, and even a well. One of the biggest finds was this really interesting looking stone circle. Some believe it might have been used for healing or ceremonies, kind of like a prehistoric underwater Stonehenge. They also found human skeletons, tools, and signs that people here knew how to farm, fish, and live in permanent settlements. One of the stranger discoveries were traces of tuberculosis in the remains, making this one of the oldest known cases of that disease. As for why this city ended up underwater, most experts think a massive tsunami hit triggered by a volcano or a landslide. The timing does line up with a major collapse of the continental shelf in the Mediterranean. Canopus was an ancient Egyptian city near Alexandria. It was a pretty important place. A lot of trade went on here. It was also known for its temples, like one dedicated to Osiris. For a time, this city really flourished, maybe a little too well though, especially during Roman rule. It was rich and luxurious, and people really started embracing the excess. It was so over the top that writers like Seneca and Juvenal called it out for how debaucherous it was. Seneca was a Roman philosopher and advisor to Emperor Nero, and Juvenal was a poet who made a career out of calling out all the messed up stuff that went on in Roman society. But by the 2nd century BCE, things started to fall apart here. Earthquakes, rising sea levels, and tsunamis slowly sank the city. The eastern side of Canopus got swallowed by the sea, and the western part became the modern town of Abu Qir. It was nearly forgotten until 1933, when a British pilot spotted some ruins in the water. That led to some archaeological digs, but it wasn't until the 90s that underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team started uncovering the submerged city. What they found were columns, statues, and temples still sitting down there under the water. Dunwich used to be a decent-sized town on England's east coast. Back in the 11th and 12th centuries, it had busy docks, there were several churches, there was steady trade, and it had a relatively large population. It was a well-connected place, doing business with parts of Europe, and even had its own mint at one point. But starting in the 1200s, storms and coastal erosion started eating away at the land. A huge storm in 1286 wrecked the harbor, and over the next few hundred years, more storms and rising sea levels kept chipping away at what was left. So most of the original town is now underwater. Today there's only a small village on land, but some will say that you could still hear the sound of church bells rising up from the water. Baiae was basically ancient Rome's party town. It sat on the coast of the Bay of Naples and was the place where the rich and powerful went to relax. And they did other stuff that can no longer be spoken of here on YouTube. Emperors like Nero and Hadrian had villas here, and the town was packed with bathhouses, temples, and fancy estates. It had natural hot springs as well, which made it a popular spot for Roman elites looking to soak and unwind. But there was a shady side to it as well. Some ancient writers described it as a place full of scandal and corruption and political plotting. It was kind of like Vegas for senators. The town eventually declined when the Roman Empire fell, and between volcanic activity and rising sea levels, a good chunk of the place ended up underwater. Today, parts of it are still on land, but a lot of it The whole villas, statues, mosaics, and roads are now sitting beneath the sea. It's one of the only places in the world where you can actually snorkel or dive through this ancient Roman city. You'll see things like marble floors, collapsed columns, and the remains of Hadrian's villa. Pretty amazing, and I think adding this one to my bucket list. Curon was a small mountain village in northern Italy near the Austrian border, but in 1950 it got completely wiped off the map on purpose. The Italian government flooded the area to merge two natural lakes into one big artificial reservoir as part of a hydroelectric dam project. Over 160 homes, farms, and buildings were lost underwater. The villagers were forced to relocate, of course, and everything they left behind was buried beneath the lake. All except for one thing, the church tower. That single stone bell tower still sticks up out of the water today. In winter, when the lake freezes, you can actually walk right up to it. Locals say you can still sometimes hear the bells ringing, even though they were removed before the flooding. It's eerie, kind of beautiful. The image of the tower became iconic. It's even the inspiration for the Netflix show Curon, which has that tower sticking out of the water as the promo image. You can see why. It's definitely eye-catching.
Have we found the real Atlantis? We are about to dive deep beneath the waves to uncover hidden temples and sunken cities that could rewrite human history. Beneath the gentle waves off the coast of Atlit in Israel lies Atlit Yam, a submerged Neolithic village that's turning our understanding of ancient history upside down. Dating back an astonishing 9,000 years to around 6,900 to 6,300 BCE, this underwater time capsule is one of the oldest and most complete ever discovered. Divers exploring the site have found well-preserved houses complete with stone floors and hearths, and even freshwater wells that hint at sophisticated engineering skills. But here's where things get even more intriguing. Ritual installations featuring arranged stone circles suggest complex spiritual beliefs, and human remains found here include the oldest known cases of tuberculosis. This challenges what we thought we knew about the spread of disease and the development of early agriculture. Could Atlit Yam be the key to unlocking secrets about our prehistoric ancestors that we never even imagined? This hidden village doesn't just add a chapter to history, it invites us to rewrite parts of it, revealing a level of societal complexity that truly defies what we thought was possible so long ago. In our number 9 spot today, we have Port Royal, Jamaica. Once dubbed the wickedest city on earth, Port Royal, Jamaica was a notorious playground for pirates, privateers, and the colonial elite in the 17th century. This bustling port was the epicenter of maritime trade and mischief in the Caribbean. But in 1692, a catastrophic earthquake struck, causing much of the city to sink beneath the waves in mere minutes. Today, the submerged ruins of Port Royal offer an underwater time capsule that is nothing short of mesmerizing. Divers have uncovered well-preserved buildings, cobblestone streets, and even hidden chambers that feel like lost temples of a bygone era. Artifacts like pirate treasure, personal belongings, and intricate architectural details provide a vivid snapshot of colonial life that's far richer and more complex than we ever imagined. Could the depths of Port Royal hold secrets that challenge our understanding of history and the extent of pirate civilization? In our number 8 spot today, we have Cleopatra's Palace. Submerged beneath the sparkling waters of Alexandria's eastern harbor lies a world frozen in time. The lost palace of Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Over 1,500 years ago, catastrophic earthquakes and tidal waves sent this opulent royal quarter tumbling into the sea, where it has remained remarkably preserved. Divers exploring this underwater marvel have uncovered towering statues, sphinxes, and ornate architectural fragments that once graced grand temples and palaces. Among the most captivating finds are artifacts linked directly to Cleopatra herself, a statue that may represent her likeness, coins bearing her image, and remnants of what could have been her private chambers. These discoveries offer a tantalizing glimpse into the splendor of Ptolemaic Egypt and the life of one of history's most intriguing figures. In our number 7 spot today, we have have Baiae, Italy. Submerged beneath the tranquil waters of the Bay of Naples lies Baiae, a lost city that was once the most extravagant resort for the Roman elite. A place so opulent it was dubbed the Las Vegas of ancient Rome. This wasn't just a getaway spot. Emperors like Nero and Caligula built lavish villas and grand temples here, indulging in luxuries that bordered on the mythical. Thanks to volcanic activity known as Brady-seism, the city gradually sank, preserving its splendor under the sea for over a millennia. Today, underwater explorers have uncovered sprawling villas adorned with intricate mosaics, marble statues, and sophisticated bath complexes that showcase architectural ingenuity far ahead of their time. The sheer extravagance and advanced engineering of these submerged wonders challenge our understanding of Roman capabilities. Could the hidden temples and artifacts of Baiae suggest that ancient societies were more advanced than we've ever imagined? This sunken treasure trove doesn't just fascinate, it compels us to rethink the boundaries of human history. In our number 6 spot today, we have Shi Chang in China. Nestled beneath the tranquil waters of the Qingdao Lake in China lies Shi Chang, the legendary lion city that's been dubbed a real-life Atlantis. Submerged intentionally in 1959 during the creation of the Xinan River Dam, this ancient city dates all the way back to the Eastern Han Dynasty between 25 and 200 CE. What's absolutely mind-blowing is how remarkably preserved it remains underwater. Wooden structures, intricate carvings, and grand temples stand just as they did nearly 2 millennia ago, shielded from time by the depths above them. Divers exploring this submerged wonder have been greeted by ornate stonework and meticulously crafted arches that offer a vivid snapshot of ancient Chinese urban life. The city's 5 entrance gates, instead of the usual 4, and its network of streets lined with preserved buildings make it like a time capsule. Could Shi Chang be more than just a sunken city? With its hidden temples and untouched artifacts, it challenges us to rethink what we know about preservation and ancient civilizations. The Lion City isn't just resting beneath the waves, it's silently telling a story that defies the boundaries of history. In our number 5 spot today, we have Pavlo, Petri, Greece. Just off the southern coast of Greece lies Pavlo, Petri, a city submerged that could rewrite our understanding of ancient civilizations. Believed to date back to around 2800 BCE, Pavlo, Petri is the world's oldest known underwater city. What's remarkable is the city's sophisticated urban planning, neatly laid out streets, complex buildings, and even evidence of advanced architectural techniques that seem astonishingly modern for the Bronze Age. Artifacts recovered from the site suggest it was a thriving hub of trade and culture, possibly even holding religious significance with structures that could have been early temples. The sheer advancement of Pavlo, Petri raises intriguing questions. Could this hidden city beneath the waves be a testament to a level of societal development far beyond what we thought possible for that era? As archaeologists continue to unearth its secrets, Pavlo, Petri challenges us to rethink the timelines and capabilities of ancient human history. In our number 4 spot today, we have Thonis, Heracleion, and Canopus. Hidden beneath the Mediterranean Sea lie the lost cities of Thonis, Heracleion, and Canopus, once bustling Egyptian metropolises, now frozen in time underwater. These cities were vibrant hubs where Egyptian and Greek cultures mingled. Think grand temples, busy ports, and streets alive with merchants and pilgrims. Natural disasters like earthquakes and a gradual rise in sea levels caused them to sink over 1,000 years ago, but recent excavations have brought their stories back to the surface. Divers have uncovered colossal statues of pharaohs, intricate temples dedicated to gods from both pantheons, and everyday artifacts that offer a snapshot of ancient life. What's truly captivating is how these discoveries illuminate the deep interactions between two great civilizations, revealing a level of cultural blending that adds new dimensions to our understanding of history. Could these submerged temples hold even more secrets about the ancient world waiting to be discovered? The sunken wonders of Thonis, Heracleion, and Canopus not only fascinate but also challenge us to rethink the complexities of our our shared past. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Yonaguni Monument. Discovered by chance in 1986 by a local diver off the coast of Yonaguni Island, the Yonaguni Monument is an underwater mystery that has fueled debates and ignited imaginations worldwide. This massive submerged structure features what looks like grand terraces, sharp-edged steps, and flat platforms, resembling the ruins of an ancient temple complex lost to the sea. Some enthusiasts argue that these formations are the remnants of a civilization that predates recorded history, possibly pushing back the timeline of human development by thousands of years. They point to what appeared to be carved markings and symmetrical shapes as evidence of human craftsmanship. On the other hand, many geologists insist that these features are a result of natural tectonic activity and erosion over millennia. But when you see the striking resemblance to man-made architecture, it's very hard not to wonder, could the Yonaguni Monument be a hidden temple that challenges everything we know about human history? In our number 2 spot today, we have Dwarka, India. Off the western coast of India, near the Gulf of Khambat, lies a submerged world that's turning ancient history on its head. The underwater ruins linked to the legendary city of Dwarka. Mentioned in Hindu scriptures as the opulent kingdom of Lord Krishna, Dwarka was thought by many to be a myth, until marine archaeologists started uncovering its secrets beneath the waves. Artifacts pulled from the depths suggest a settlement dating back to around 1500 BCE, aligning with the late Harappan phase of the Indus Valley civilization. But here's where it gets really fascinating. The structures and relics found underwater closely match descriptions from ancient texts, hinting at a civilization far more advanced than we imagined for that time. Could these ruins be the actual remnants of Krishna's golden city, swallowed by the sea millennia ago? The discovery not only bridges the gap between myth and history, but also challenges our understanding of how sophisticated early human societies might have been. It's a sunken treasure trove that's making us question everything we thought we knew about the past. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have Atlantis. Atlantis, the very name sends a thrill down the spine, evoking images of an advanced civilization swallowed by the sea, hidden temples brimming with ancient wisdom and technologies that could defy our understanding of human history. First chronicled by Plato, Atlantis was described as a powerful empire that met its demise in a single, catastrophic day and night. Over centuries, explorers and scholars have scoured the globe, from the depths of the Atlantic to the coasts of Spain and beyond, chasing whispers of this legendary city. While no archaeological evidence has confirmed its existence, the myth of Atlantis persists, igniting imaginations and sparking debates. Could there be a grain of truth behind the legend? Might there be submerged ruins waiting to be discovered that could rewrite the chapters of our past? The enduring allure of Atlantis keeps us captivated as we wonder whether hidden temples beneath the ocean waves might one day reveal secrets that challenge everything we thought we knew.
The submerged city of Pavlo, Petri, found off the coast of southern Greece, is believed to be over 5,000 years old, making it the oldest known sunken city in the world. Discovered in 1967 by Nicholas Fleming, it's an ancient settlement almost perfectly preserved, with its streets, buildings, and tombs all sitting underwater. Over time, earthquakes and rising sea levels submerged the place around 1000 BCE, and it never resurfaced. The city was a trading hub. There's evidence that it had connections with Crete and other civilizations of the time. Excavations have revealed 15 well-planned buildings and a complex water system. These people were skilled engineers. With high-tech tools like sonar mapping and underwater robots, archaeologists have been able to create a 3D digital map of the city, giving us a closer look at its layout and how it would have functioned. The mystery of crystal pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle has been talked about since the 60s. The first real claim came from a man named Dr. Ray Brown, who, while scuba diving off the coast of the Bahamas, reported coming across this underwater pyramid.
That he came across the most magnificent find of all. In the murkiness, he spotted the tip of a submerged pyramid, barely visible above the ocean floor.
He described it as being made of a crystal-like material, even saying he was able to retrieve a piece of it, but that his camera equipment was destroyed in a storm, thus he was unable to return with actual photographic evidence of the pyramid. Dubious for sure, but since then more stories about underwater pyramids have spread. And then again, the documentary that his story comes from was narrated by Leonard Nimoy, so I can see why people were so intrigued. I mean, it's Mr. Spock. I'd believe it too. Pyramids were found at a depth of 2,000 meters. The report claimed that they were 3 times bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The pyramids were allegedly made of this crystal-like substance. The thing is, Dr. Meyer Verlag has never been verified to exist. So, is this an actual find or just another piece of Bermuda Triangle folklore? Off the coast of Malta, a discovery in 1999 started a bit of a debate. They're known as the underwater temples of Gebel Gol Bahar. Hubert Zeitmer, a retired businessman, discovered the ruins. Zeitmer wasn't a scientist, and he was into the whole ancient astronauts conspiracy stuff, so a lot of people dismissed his findings, but that doesn't mean it's not intriguing. There hasn't been an official study into this, but unofficial research has claimed that the ruins could be thousands of years old. Some even think this area was once inhabited and could have been submerged by a massive flood, possibly the same one described in the Bible. Now, of course, mainstream scholars aren't really buying this theory, with some arguing that the rocks and boulders are just the result of illegal dumping. But it's not just the structures themselves that have people talking, there are also cart ruts, grooves in the seabed that stretch into the water, similar to ones found on the island of Malta itself, which means this area might have been on dry land at one point in time. What you're looking at here are the submerged ruins of a long-lost city called Shi Chang, aka China's Atlantis. It's pretty spectacular. It sits beneath the waters of Qingdao Lake in the Zhejiang province. The city of Shi Chang, or Lion City, was once a bustling metropolis during the Ming and Qing dynasties, but in 1959 it was intentionally flooded to create the Xing'an Dam and its hydroelectric station, which caused nearly 300,000 people to be relocated. The city was forgotten until 2001, when the Chinese government sent an expedition to explore what remained of this lost city. But it wasn't until 2011 that the discovery really took off. The Chinese National Geography published photos and illustrations showing what the city might have looked like before it sank. And what's wild is how well preserved the place is now. There are hundreds of archways with these intricate carvings of lions and dragons and phoenixes. Some inscriptions even date back to 1777. Because the water protects the ruins from weathering, Shi Chang looks almost as if it were frozen in time, and divers from all over the world come to explore the area. Bimini Road was found off the coast of Bimini Island in the Bahamas in 1968 by Joseph Mason Valentine. The site consists of these large, flat stones arranged in a straight line across the seabed, leading many to believe that it could be the ancient remains of a city. As Valentine explored the area further, he uncovered more outlines of possible ruins around the road. Some were quick to point out that it seemed like evidence of the lost city of Atlantis, arguing that the stones were just clearly too uniform to be some natural formation. Mainstream scientists, though, think that the road is the result of nature, that erosion over a long period of time has just created this illusion of a flat road. Ray Brown, another researcher, claimed to have discovered a sunken pyramid near Baiae Island, not far from Bimini. He was on a mission to find sunken galleons when he noticed the quote-unquote pyramid, and as he later reported, his navigation equipment malfunctioned right before the discovery, so maybe there's something to this one. Off the coast of Cuba, there's something pretty wild lying underwater: pyramids. Using sonar, researchers found what looks like the remains of an ancient city, complete with giant stone structures. The find was made in 2001 by a marine engineer named Pauline Zalitsky and her husband, Paul Weinswig, owners of a Canadian company called Advanced Digital Communications. Some of these formations are massive, around 400 meters wide and 40 meters tall, or about 1,312 feet wide and 131 feet tall or so. And they're not natural either, at least they really don't seem to be. The way they're laid out suggests they were designed by humans, so the questions are, how old are they and who built them? Some experts think the city could be 6,000 years old, others believe it could go back as far as 50,000 years. Even more interesting, there are strange symbols and carvings on some of these stones, and they don't match any known languages. But they do kind of look a bit like Aztec or Mayan symbols. Ships have been reporting strange sightings in the Indian Ocean for over a century, and it all starts in 1873. On March 23rd of that year, the crew of the ship Adelheid crossing the South China Sea spotted a massive, mile-wide disc floating just beneath the surface, glowing with light. Then in 1879, the HMS Vulture crew reported seeing two giant, quote, Ferris wheels spinning in opposite directions with spokes 25 feet wide and 100 feet apart. Over the years, there have been more and more of these reports. In 1901, the crew of the SS Kilwa in the Persian Gulf saw rays of light coming from an underwater disc-like object. Then in 1943, sailor Matthew Mangle described a huge glowing disc pacing his ship, also in the Persian Gulf. These sightings didn't just happen once or twice, but across multiple decades and locations, each with similar descriptions of these bright, rotating, glowing discs beneath the water. They're all still a mystery to this day, with no clear explanation for what these massive underwater objects could be. At one time, the city of Neapolis was an important Roman city in Tunisia, until it was destroyed by a tsunami in 365. The same disaster hit Alexandria down the coast, but Neapolis was completely wiped out and stayed lost for over 1,700 years. Then in 2017, after 7 years of digging, archaeologists rediscovered it. Even though Neapolis was a Roman city, it sided with Carthage during the Punic Wars, which led the Romans to mostly just ignore this place in their records. But when they started uncovering this city, they found it was much bigger and more developed than they would have expected. One of the coolest finds was over 100 tanks used to make garum, a popular fish sauce in ancient Rome. And it turns out Neapolis might have been one of the top producers of it. In 2007, underwater archaeologist Mark Hawley discovered something incredible in Lake Michigan, a structure that looks a lot like Stonehenge, known as the Michigan Stonehenge. This underwater arrangement of stones sits about 40 feet below the surface and forms this circular pattern. And some of the stones even appear to be lined up in a straight row, which is certainly strange. So what are these stones doing there? Could they be the remnants of an ancient civilization? The way these stones are laid out suggests they were carefully arranged this way, not formed naturally. One of the most curious finds is a rock with what looks like it might have a mastodon carved into it. And to make it even more mind-blowing, these stones are thought to be around 9,000 years old, predating Stonehenge by about 4,000 years. This last one's different from pretty much everything else on this list. It's not an ancient city, but it's creepy all the same. A cemetery of sunken Japanese World War II ships. In 1944, Chuuk Lagoon in Micronesia was the site of Operation Hailstone, where US fighter planes bombed Japanese warships, and today this lagoon is home to over 60 shipwrecks, remnants of that brutal battle. It's all just sitting underwater now, corroding ships, tanks, and cars are even scattered across the seabed. As divers swim through the site, they might find barnacle-covered firearm, old gas masks, abandoned medicine bottles, personal items, all just frozen in time. Some of these wrecks even have the bones of soldiers who died in the battle. It's incredibly eerie, no doubt, but divers will also say the place has a certain beauty to it, a kind of haunting stillness.
The concept of the lost continent of Lemuria was first introduced to the world in 1864 by a man named Philip Sclater, a lawyer and zoologist who divided the world into 6 main zoogeographic regions based on the distribution of animal species. These regions were the Palearctic, Ethiopian, Australasian, Nearctic, and the Neotropical regions, which was all good and well until Sclater noticed something strange. strange. Lemur fossils in India, as well as Madagascar, but not in nearby Africa or the Middle East. Seeing as identical species don't develop in two different places at once and lemurs can't swim, Philip theorized that the lemurs must have found their way to their various homes some other way, perhaps a large landmass or land bridge connecting Madagascar to India before eventually becoming swallowed by the seas, a landmass he later decided to name Lemuria in honor of the animals that sparked it in the first place.
So there's actually an entire school dedicated to the existence of Lemuria and what is referred to as the Lemurian philosophy. The school is found on this piece of land near Ramona, California, and is called the Lemurian Fellowship. I checked out the website, and there are some aspects to the lessons that are a bit more esoteric and seemingly inapplicable in real life. You know, teaching about reincarnation. One lesson called the New Order, quote, takes the student into the future some 800 years after Armageddon for a privileged visit to 3 great cities of the forthcoming civilization. Whatever that means. Guess I gotta do the full course. But the course also does outline things that are gonna be more relevant in your day-to-day life, like finances. There's a lesson devoted to marriage and family, health. This course really does cover the full gamut. Now, my first thought was that the place was gonna be a scam, but the price, it's actually pretty reasonable. $50 enrollment fee, and then $35 per lesson. There's 12 in total. Like, hey, you know what? A lot of scumbags online that offer their corrupt, get-rich-quick courses are charging just mountains more than that. So, the Lemurian Fellowship may be a little odd, but they don't seem like they're in it to swindle people to me. And there's nothing on the site about divorcing yourself from your family or friends, and you can even do the course online. So, not getting any super in-your-face culty vibes either. This sounds like an ad for the website. I'm not saying it is. I just find this kind of interesting.
In 1888, Helena Blavatsky, a Russian-American author, released a book called The Secret Doctrine, which questioned whether or not Lemuria was actually the birthplace of all humanity rather than Africa, and she put forth the idea that all major religions are united by an ancient wisdom that stemmed from an original root race in a sequence of 7 root races that define the various and concrete stages of human development. The first was the Polarian race, ethereal beings with no physical bodies. The second, the Hyperborean race, shapeless asexuals that produced through natural cloning. The third race in the sequence was the Lemurian race, who lived alongside the dinosaurs and were intelligent giants with yellowish brown skin, flattened faces, small piercing eyes, and incredibly long arms and legs. The fourth race was the Atlanteans, the inhabitants of Atlantis, peak physical structure and incredibly advanced intelligence. We are the fifth race, the expansion race, spreading out across the globe. It is Blavatsky's belief that Lemuria was destroyed by fire. Volcanoes shattered the continent into small islands, including the Hawaiian Islands, and the rest of the lands slowly sank down into the sea.
Alright, so after finishing the Lemurian Fellowship course, you may be qualified to join the Lemurian Order, the headquarters of which are also located near Ramona, California, on a piece of 200-acre property referred to as the Gateway. Enticing. The Lemurian Fellowship, the Lemurian Order, the Gateway, this all sounds very high fantasy. So what do you do once you're part of the Order? Do you seek out ancient manuscripts and battle-toad people in the woods? Based on these names, I have very high hopes. Now, from most of what I read though, the Lemurian Order specializes in crafts. Aircraft? Are they making advanced aircraft based on ancient scientific knowledge from the lost civilization of Lemuria? Well, no. By crafts, they mean like music stands. They do cabinets, wooden beakers. They make a lot of stuff out of wood. Lamps are also on the list. It's, you know, it's handcrafted. That's why they're called crafts, I guess. So not quite as epic as what I was hoping for, but everyone does like handcrafted stuff. You don't get a lot of that these days.
James Churchward, a British writer and inventor, also had an incredible interest in the forgotten continent of Lemuria. But after translating a number of ancient Indian tablets, he came to the conclusion that the landmass had actually once been referred to as Mu. In 1931, Churchward published his fourth book, The Children of Mu. In it, he described Lemuria as having a population of about 60 million people, and he claimed that the continent stretched all the way from Hawaii in the north to Easter Island in the east and almost all the way up to Japan in the west. In fact, later in life, Churchward stated a belief that the sunken Yonaguni monument, which we have mentioned before on this channel, might have actually been part of ancient Lemuria, and that the Nan Madol in Micronesia, which we have also mentioned before, might have been part of southern Lemuria as well. Furthermore, Churchward believed Easter Island to have been part of the landmass due to the fact that in ancient times it was home to 12,000 people, and it's highly unlikely that they would have been able to make that journey via canoe. It makes much more sense to Churchward, and starting to make much more sense to myself, and believers of Lemuria, that the inhabitants of Easter Island simply walked there instead. If they were Lemurians, and therefore giants, that would also explain how they would have created the famous Easter Island megastructures. Unlike Sclater and Blavatsky though, Churchward does not believe the continent slowly sank, but rather disappeared in a single night, when earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis triggered by a pole shift swallowed Lemuria whole in just a matter of hours.
So much like Helena Blavatsky talked about with the Lemurians living alongside dinosaurs, some do go as far to say that the Lemurians were full-on reptilian beings. As for their origin, one idea is that they came from another planet and settled on Earth, establishing the great civilization of Lemuria. These reptilians are said to have lived peacefully on this part of the land for thousands of years, building a highly advanced society, and when Lemuria was destroyed, more on that later, these reptilian beings didn't just disappear, instead they went underground, both literally and figuratively. Some conspiracy theorists even claim these reptilians dug deep into the earth, creating hidden cities and tunnels to continue their existence away from human eyes.
Going off of Helena Blavatsky's point about how all major religions are united by one ancient wisdom, American authors James Bramwell and William Scott Elliott both believe that the event that destroyed Lemuria greatly mirrored the Great Flood as is described in the Bible. But rather than the flood taking place in 2348 BC, they believe it took place roughly 11,600 years ago during the Younger Dryas, at the end of the last ice age, when Earth's climate began to shift, and the planet went from being cold, frigid, and completely glacial to a little bit warmer and more interglacial. During this time, ice sheets were melting rapidly, and sea levels were rising at alarming rates across the globe. Coastal areas were completely wiped out, and entire land masses, including Lemuria, were almost completely submerged underwater.
So Lemuria is often compared to Atlantis, but as you'll learn more about in a minute, there's said to be a connection between the two, a connection that turned out to lead to their eventual downfall. But before we get to that, let's talk about Bimini Road, an underwater rock formation that some say may be the remnants of a lost ancient civilization like Atlantis or Lemuria. It was discovered in 1968, but a few decades before, it was mentioned by an American mystic named Edgar Cayce, who wrote about how a road leading to Atlantis would be discovered in the years to come, writing that, quote, "A portion of the temples may yet be discovered under the slime of ages and seawater near Bimini. Expect it in 68 or 69. Yeah, that's actually pretty wild.
So by now we've heard quite a few theories lending reasoning to why Lemuria might have disappeared so many years ago, but there is one that we have not touched upon yet, and it is my personal favorite. Why? Well, because it includes the people of Atlantis, the humanoid godlike alien race of the Anunnaki, who, according to legend, created humans through DNA manipulation and then used them as slaves in a great war between them two and the Lemurians. According to Daniel W. Fry, Atlanteans lived peacefully for almost 200,000 years before the Anunnaki came to Earth and began influencing and corrupting their society. It was this corruption that led Atlanteans to the conclusion that it was their destiny to dominate and rule over all other existing tribes and communities on Earth. But they couldn't do it without the help of the Lemurians. Only problem was, the Lemurians didn't agree with this way of living, as they believed societies deserved the opportunity to thrive on their own. Because of this, a war broke out between the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, Mayans sometime between 1004 and 9500 BC. The war was cataclysmic, and the amount of nuclear energy used in the battle caused the Earth to become unstable. The axis began to change and the Earth began to shift. At the end of the Great Battle, both civilizations had fallen and their lands had become lost to the seas. According to some, there were some survivors, Lemurian survivors, who went on to create a secret civilization that apparently still exists today in the mountains of California.
That's right, Hannah. If you want to witness the sights and sounds of the majestic ancient civilization of Lemuria yourself, you may want to travel to Mount Shasta, where there's said to be a hidden underground city. According to the legend, this subterranean world is home to the remnants of Lemuria, who took refuge there after their epic war with Atlantis. There have also been a bunch of UFO sightings around Mount Shasta, and some folks even claim to have encountered this underground city. One of the most famous stories comes from a prospector named J.C. Brown. So in 1904, while searching for gold, he stumbled on a cave that sloped down for 11 miles. And inside, he claimed to have found what looked like an entire city filled with artifacts like shields and weapons and the mummified remains of large humanoids, some towering at 10 feet tall. J.C. Brown kept his discovery a secret for years until he finally shared his story with a guy named John C. Root. John got a team together to search for this underground city, but on the day they were supposed to meet, J.C. Brown vanished without a trace and was never seen or heard from again.
Located in Scotland, the Corryvreckan Maelstrom is a permanent, powerful vortex. In fact, this is said to be the third strongest in the world, and depending on the weather conditions, this thing can get pretty deadly. In fact, there are countless tales of ships being sucked into the whirlpool's vortex. The lucky ones will just get spun out of control, but they'll survive. Not only that, but this whirlpool can produce standing waves as high as 15 feet high. So you don't want to be anywhere near it when that happens. The Sunken Crosses of Malpeque is an underwater graveyard located in Spain. This spot commemorates a group of 16th century missionaries that were killed by pirates before being thrown into the sea. The site features 40 stone crosses at the bottom of the sea off of the coast of La Palma in the Canary Islands. The site was created in 2000. Locals created one cross for each person that was killed, and then they purposely had them sunk in their honor. So it is literally an underwater graveyard, which is cool, but it's also creepy at the same time. It is now forever a site to remember the horrors that happened to these people. Moving on to number 8, we have Jason Voorhees. Imagine you're swimming along in a lake minding your own business when all of a sudden you see Jason from Friday the 13th chained to the bottom of the lake. I don't know about you, but I would become like Michael Phelps and just speed swim my way out of that ocean. Here's the thing, there is a Jason at the bottom of a lake. Turns out that someone put a creepy statue of Jason Voorhees at the bottom of a lake in Arizona. The chains around him add a creepy touch as well. Turns out the statue was placed in Lake Pleasant in 2018 by a diver named Zachary Nagy. According to him, it took weeks upon weeks to make. When asked why he did it, he said that it is common for divers to place objects underwater, kind of to act like a marker. Apparently there's a poker table, fake skeletons, even a Christmas tree down there as well. But this one is definitely the creepiest. It must have given some of the divers quite a fright when they first swam into it. Now, Lake Pleasant Regional Park supervisors as well as local officials instructed Zachary to remove the statue. He didn't end up doing so though. But the creepiest part? When they went down there to remove it themselves, it was nowhere to be seen. Moving on to number 7, we have the underwater Stonehenge. England's Stonehenge is a pretty mysterious site. There's a lot we don't know about it, like how was it built? What was its purpose? So on and so on. Well, it turns out that there is a Stonehenge located underwater. It can be found at the bottom of Lake Michigan. There are a bunch of random rock formations that scientists have been struggling to explain, but it's believed that they are thousands of years old. What makes it even weirder is that on one of these stones, they discovered a carving of a mastodon, a relative of an elephant that went extinct like over 10,000 years ago. So they're like, maybe this structure has been here since the last ice age. We really don't know how old they truly are, who built them, and why.
In our 6th spot, we have the massive shark statue. So it appears as if divers enjoy giving other divers heart attacks. This time, someone placed a giant shark statue underwater. Holy, if I saw that thing, I legit would have a heart attack, or I'd probably just choke on the water and drown. The shark can be found in Lake Neuchatel in Switzerland. This is 10 times scarier than Jason. Like, at first glance, it looks real. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Sunken Sculpture Park. Located in the Caribbean just off the coast of Grenada, you will find a number of underwater statues. Some of them include life-sized casts of local children or a ring of people holding hands. Nowadays, the sculptures are covered in vegetation and in barnacles. The ocean has completely claimed them. So I won't lie, it looks pretty creepy, but it definitely is a place to see. In our 4th spot, we have the Dead Humans. Now, this is a very undeniably creepy art site. Located just off the coast of North Africa in the shallow waters around one of the Canary Islands, you have 200 human figures laying dead on the ocean floor. This was an art installation trying to highlight global warming. All the dead humans are said to be victims of global warming. This site is called Human Gyre, and it is open to the public if you wish to dive down and see it for yourself. If you do, you'll see a ring of humans stacked on top of each other. If I dove down and I didn't have a warning about what this was, I would literally think that it was a portal to hell or something. Coming in at number 3, we have the Dragon's Triangle. The Dragon's Triangle, or the Devil's Sea, or the Pacific Bermuda Triangle, is an area where a number of different ships and military vessels have gone missing, which is why it's considered the Pacific Bermuda Triangle. Fun, not so fun fact, it is considered one of the most dangerous marine locations around the world. In 1950, a team of researchers exploring the area set out, and they never returned home. Their bodies were never found. And over the years, a number of US and Japanese ships have gone missing in that area. One time, 9 American ships went missing in that area on a day with perfect weather. To this day, they haven't been found, and we literally don't know what happened to them. Moving on, at number 2, we have the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is located in the western part of the Pacific Ocean, and it is the deepest part of the ocean. It is about 2,550 kilometers long and 69 kilometers wide. The exact depth, though, is unknown because we haven't been able to get to the bottom of it, which makes it pretty creepy. Scientists say that there could be sea creatures down there that we have never even heard of, but we won't be able to find out because we can't get down there. It's so deep that apparently if you take Mount Everest and put it in the trench, its summit would still be underwater by more than 2 kilometers. So yeah, it's really deep and creepy. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the ghost ships. Now, there is an area in the ocean rumored to be incredibly haunted, and this is located just adjacent to the Bermuda Triangle. How fitting. So this is the shoreless Sargasso Sea. There's no shoreline, hence its name. Its boundaries are ocean currents. Not only is it filled with seaweed so thick that it floats on the surface of the water, but it's haunted. A number of people have spotted long-lost ships floating in the area. When they pull up to it, no one is on board. Not only that, but others have claimed to see faces appear in the seaweed, as if someone was trapped in the ocean looking up at them. How creepy is that? Starting off this countdown, we have Port Royal, Jamaica. Port Royal was once known as the wickedest city on earth. It was home to real-life Pirates of the Caribbean. It had a population of over 7,000 people. That was until 1692. On June 7th of that year, a massive earthquake caused a deadly tsunami to strike the land. 2,000 people sunk along with the entire city. People thought that this was done by God to try and get rid of the pirates, but honestly, those that survived just moved further up the coast. The city was forgotten about until the 1950s, when underwater excavations caused the city to become rediscovered. Today, this city is considered one of the best preserved underwater cities in the world. In our 9th spot today, we have Lion City. The Lion City, or Shi Chang, is a 1,300-year-old city located in Eastern Europe that now lies completely underwater. But it wasn't always like that. In the late 1950s, the city was purposely flooded to build a hydroelectric power station in the area. What's pretty fascinating is that although it lays about 40 meters underwater, the buildings are still in pretty good shape. The only change is instead of having human residents, it's now home to tons of aquatic life. Now, it laid untouched until 2001 when it was rediscovered. Now, you may be wondering, why was it given the name Lion City? And that's because there are a number of carved lions featured in the city, but they also have carved dragons and phoenixes there as well. Sadly, only experienced divers are permitted to explore the city. That's because of the depth and temperature and low visibility down there. But alas, you can still see how cool it is by Googling images of it. And honestly, it's quite beautiful. In our 8th spot today, we have the Mulifanua site. Very little information is known about this next city. Located in Samoa, this city was discovered in the 1970s. Basically, a bunch of pottery shards were found and researchers were like, dude, there's probably more down there. And then they were right. In the end, they found thousands of pieces of pottery. But not only that, they found the remnants of a village. The village dates back to around 800 BC. In fact, it's considered one of the largest villages in the area. Like I said though, not much is known about this village, making it quite the mystery. In our 7th spot, we have Wanaku, Bolivia. Back in the day, residents in the area were told great stories of a long-lost underwater city, much like Atlantis. They said the city contained heaps of Spanish gold. And looks like part of the story was actually true. Recently, divers in the area found ruins of an ancient temple complex. This temple is said to be more than 1,500 years old. More than 200 dives have taken place to get a better understanding of this ancient city. Who knows though, maybe there is gold and other priceless artifacts buried around there somewhere. Coming in at number 6, we have Pavlo, Petri, Greece. Back in 1967, an oceanographer discovered a number of ancient ruins underwater in southwestern Greece. What he didn't realize is that later this would lead to him finding an ancient underground town. In fact, this is considered the oldest underwater city. It dates all the way back to the Bronze Age. It was believed to have been above water from the 3rd millennium until 1100 BC. What's crazy is that there's almost an entire complete city underwater. You got streets, buildings, churches, gardens, tombs, you name it. It really is breathtaking. Nowadays, they created a 3D image of what this city might have once looked like. And it's pretty freaking cool if you ask me. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Japan's Atlantis, aka the sunken city of Yonaguni. Just off the coast of Yonaguni lies a city completely sunken underwater. There are complete pyramids, ruins of a castle, structures etched with faces, and rock sculptures that look like animals, all underwater. Every structure has such intricate design and detail. Like there's a monument made up of a series of rock formations, including carved steps, stone pillars, and a triangular formation. Now, what's weird is that we don't know the origins of this mysterious city. It's theorized that a terrible earthquake caused the city to be engulfed by the water, but we don't know for sure. To this day, this city has left experts baffled. It's one of Japan's greatest unsolved mysteries. Moving on to number 4, we have Villa Apician. Located in Argentina, this was a thriving city in the 1970s. It was home to about 500 residents, and they had about 300 businesses there. That was until the late 1980s when it sank completely underwater. During that time, they were receiving far more rain than usual. Soon, the lake around them began to swell. It ended up breaking the dam and sinking the entire city. In 1993, the town was about 33 feet underwater. That was until 2009, when some of the water receded and part of the town became visible again. Old rusted cars and debris were then exposed out of water. But of course, most of the town will continue to remain underwater, and the parts exposed will probably be flooded over again. Moving on at number 3, we have Atlit Yam. Located off the coast of Atlit, Israel, this city is said to be between 8,300 to 8,900 years old. It was first discovered in 1984 by a marine archaeologist, Ehud Galili. Since then, a number of expeditions have taken place in order to unearth this city. The city is about 10 meters below sea level and covers an area of 40,000 square meters. What's fascinating about this place is that right in the middle, it has this massive 10-acre stone circle thing. We don't know what's up with that, but many believe it might have been used for some kind of ritual. Over the years, a number of houses, graves, and wells have been discovered in this city. Scientists believe that the city was struck by a tsunami which caused a volcanic eruption, causing the city to flood and then sink. In our second spot, we have Dwarka, India. Back in the day, there was a legend that was passed down about a city laying 131 feet below the ocean. This was a legend until the 2000s when it came to life. The story of this magical city everyone had been told was indeed real. Since then, a number of ancient artifacts have been unearthed in the city, including pottery and sculptures. Also, they found a number of human bones. After running carbon dating tests on it, it revealed that the city could be almost 10,000 years old. It truly is incredible. Again, we don't know how the city came to be or what happened to it. And in our number one spot today, we have Heracleion, Egypt. Located just northwest of Alexandria is the sunken city of Heracleion, and is referred to as Egypt's Atlantis. It lay lost under the sea until the early 2000s. A group of divers were working off the Egyptian coast when they found a large fragment of rock under the seabed, or so they thought. It was just a rock. When they brought it out of the water, they found it to be a sculpture of the Egyptian god of fertility. After this discovery, they madly went to work exploring the area. They ended up discovering pieces of pottery, ancient coins, jewelry, busts, and ruins of a temple. Just tons and tons of priceless artifacts. How the city ended up underwater is still a mystery. One theory, though, is that it had to do with the rising sea levels and crumbling foundations of the city, causing it to slide into the Mediterranean Sea. Now, I'm not trying to pick favorites, but out of all the places on today's list, this is the one that I'd love to visit.